And we are back in the saddle again. Welcome everybody to the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYAB. Yes, you are tuned in to the Andrew Gosser Show, and we are streaming on Rumble, and we are streaming on X, and we are streaming on YouTube, and we are streaming at the mothership that is WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch that is our radio signal, listen to the stream. We appreciate that. Definitely appreciate the follow on X. That continues to slowly grow. I'm appreciative of it. It's just Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. Yep. The phone numbers haven't changed, ladies and gentlemen. The phone numbers haven't changed. The number, if you want to be part of the program today, is 601 879 0002. The text lines are open. Some people are blowing it up. Other people are wondering where I went. That number is 601 879 5060. And even though today is the 24th of February, 2026, it's a Tuesday, the mission at the Andrew Gosser Show, it has not changed. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? You are the saints. And if there's one thing I learned on my trip, and we're going to talk about it, it's that a person's pride will bring him low, but a humble spirit will obtain honor. And I'm just telling you right now, it's a lot easier to go through life being a little bit humble than a little bit prideful. And everybody who's sitting there talking about pride, I think we need to re-examine that in what are you actually bringing pride towards? What are you doing? But I want to talk about my trip that we hastily put together. It was worth it. It was so good to see my mother and my sisters, my children, and my national treasure. That is a national treasure right there. Going up to the airport, being able to get out of my car, hug my wife, sit there and not have to be bullied around or having a whistle blown at you saying, "Move along, move along." Um, and not quite as quick a walker as I used to be, so there's no one sitting there yelling at me to hurry up. It's just nice and easy. Walk up to the ticket agent. There's absolutely no line, and this is, on a Thursday morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. You don't have to sit there and leave 2 hours early to get through TSA. TSA people at Jackson International, great people helping me out because I don't get through so quick. Really understanding. Had to go through the X-ray machine twice because I left my Bluetooth headphone on, forgot to take that off, but it's all good. The flight into Charlotte was awesome. It was awesome, and I was hoping that I could go and eat at one of my favorite airport restaurants. There's a barbecue place in Charlotte International, and if you've ever been there, I'm not saying it's anything like we have here locally, but for airport food, I think it's my absolute favorite place to eat in the whole world. Well, time went by, and, I just ended up having to walk from one side of Charlotte Air International to the other side of it, and that was a walk, and that wiped me out, and I wasn't getting any food. So but I did catch my flight to Chicago on time, and this is where things started getting spicy, ladies and gentlemen. And I know I've got some pilots out there that listen to me, and we all know about the importance of doing touch and goes, transitions, go around, whatever you want to call it, depending on the service, it's all a little bit different. But the one thing I want to tell you is that O'Hare International Airport is a pretty busy airport. At one time in its life and in its existence, it was the busiest airport in the world. Now, I'm not sure it's that anymore. Some people say it's Atlanta Hartsfield. Some people say it might be an overseas airport. I'm not too sure, but what I do know is that the air traffic control is very precise and very specific. And American did a great job getting me hooked up. They actually upgraded me from my flight from Charlotte to Chicago. It was really great. I was right up front by the pilots, and, it was great. Couldn't hear anything that was going on up there, but, I always like sitting in the aisle seat towards the front of the aircraft. It's just easier that way. Not that I'm getting off the plane first anymore. I'll always be the first on because they board me first, and then I'm the last off because it's just easier that way. I don't wanna let people or get held up while I limp up the gantry. But, so we're sitting there and we're going in and it's funny because I'm like, in my mind, the aviator in me is sitting there, "Okay, yep, check flight, check altimeter, make sure it's set properly, got the latest weather," making su and going through it, and I can hear the flaps being deployed, I can hear us dirtying up the airplane, and, all of a sudden, and, the landing gear comes down, and I'm like, "This is great," just like old times, and I'm looking out the window, and we're getting low, and, my Mark 1 eyeball is no longer calibrated to say I was 100 feet above the ground or 200 feet above the ground or 500 feet above the ground. I pretty much have, "Yep, we're above 1,000 feet. Oh, we're low, and we're about to land." Those are my 3 altitudes that I've got in my brain, and as we're coming in and we're on final, we're going and, it's not like a Air Force brake or a carrier brake where you sit there and tip the wing airplane on its side and knife edge through. I mean, we don't have the GE 110 afterburner F-16 model. We're in the family model 737 or Airbus 321, depending on your taste of airline. That's what you got. So we're coming in. I hear the little bit of power, a little bit of power, a little bit of power comes off, and I mean, we're gliding in just sweet, and it's perfect approach. And all of a sudden, time stands still, and all of a sudden, I hear the engine start to power up, but I all of a sudden feel like, man, this is a little bit more. And then I start to feel the plane flare, and I'm like, oh, this is a big flare. Oh, we're not flaring anymore. And all of a sudden, I can hear the hydraulics start to spool up as as the as the pilots in the front lift the landing gear, put it back in the plane, and I'm sitting there looking out the window going, "Okay, we are at that we are about to land stage." And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, this has gotta be a go around. This has gotta be a go around. And now the plane everybody in the plane starts to realize what I realized a half a second ago, that this is not going to be your standard landing at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. No, we're doing a go around, and I start laughing, and the plane got really, really quiet. I'm sitting here starting to laugh, and then all of a sudden the chatter starts going, and I won't say there's screaming, but there's definitely elevated voices, and people are freaking out, and I'm like, "It's just a go around. It's just a go around." Now in my mind, I'm laughing. But I have to be this is just the mortality in me. I'm like, "I'm gonna count to 5, and if we're still climbing at 5, we're gonna be good," because I thought we were so low, we were either gonna bump into something or we were gonna strike something, and I was laughing, and people are all sitting there chatting and people looking around. I'm sitting there looking over my shoulder, and people are, like, white knuckling it, and I'm like, "It's gonna be fine, it's just a go around." And so, how aviators, we're sitting there, "It's gonna be fine," and you're looking at this 80-year-old grandma white knuckling it, and she's, "Ah!" It's funny. And so we go around, we ended up going around and landing on our 2nd take. It was really great. Great landing. The pilot greased it. Clearly must have been a Navy pilot. I'm just gonna leave it at that. And there are differences between Navy pilots and Air Force pilots, and I am not bashing on my Air Force pilots at all. Navy pilot, the aircraft aggressively meets the ground. The Air Force pilot, he's more of a let that ground effect kind of float it on in and grease it on in. And look, that's just how we're taught to land. There's no shame in being a naval aviator and making sure that you hit the ground where you want to hit it, when you want to hit it. And there's no shame in an Air Force aviator who has been taught to grease it in. And if people who are gonna say, "Who's the better pilot, Air Force pilot or Navy pilot?" You know who the best pilot is? Let me tell you who the best pilot is. The best pilot is the one who's flying your aircraft when you're about to land at wherever your destination's gonna be. That's gonna be the best pilot that you got for the day, fam. And, I can have my inter-service rivalry, and I've seen both sides of it, and I love them both. And, but so we land and we're sitting there and the thing is that the taxiing time, We flew from Charlotte to Chicago in like an hour and 20 minutes, but we spent the next 32 minutes just driving around O'Hare International Airport waiting to find a gate. It was really like the worst part of the whole flight, in my opinion. That was the worst part of the whole deal right there, was just driving around trying to figure out where to park, and then the pilot comes over the radio, and he's like, "Yeah, folks, we're sorry about that. I had a little bit non-standard there. We were on our final, and we had to do something that you probably heard somebody in the front of the or the back of the cabinet so eloquently said. We had to do a go around." And everybody starts looking at me like, "What the heck is this guy doing?" And I know there's other pilots on there. I know there's other military dudes on there, but it was just so funny that the pilot actually acknowledged that we had to do a go around and, ended up being a little bit late to the gate. Uh, O'Hare still smells like O'Hare. That's like one of my favorite smells in the world is the smell of spent JP aircraft jet fuel in the cold air. It doesn't have to be Chicago, but because that's where I was born and raised, it just means a little bit special. I can remember being active duty military, flying home, um, coming back to Chicago and having that be, like, the first smell that I actually had. It was really cool to see. But this is just where the story gets going, my friends, because the title of the show today is Mississippi is Illinois 1992, uh, and I was not in 1992 Illinois anymore. I was in 2026 Illinois, and my preconceived notions of how I was gonna get from Chicago's O'Hare International Airport to the metro station to my destination of Fox River Grove, Illinois, that is a whole 'nother story, but we need to talk about that. We need to talk about the current events too, but I'm just letting you know that, I've changed a lot in these last 4 or 5 days that I've been gone. Um, I see how great the state of Mississippi is, and yet I see Mississippi doing the exact same mistakes that Illinois did back in 1992. You are listening to The Andrew Gosser Show. It's on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Yeah, welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. We are moving and grooving. It's great to be back in the great state of Mississippi where we appreciate our freedom. I'll tell you that. So we get to the gate. We're talking about my trip to Illinois. We get to the gate. I let everybody get off the plane. People are rushing to get to their connections and what have you. And I'm the last person off, and I smile at the pilot, and I said, "That was a great approach you shot there," and he just kinda smiled and laughed. We had a good chuckle, and so now I was gonna take a Uber from O'Hare to my house in Fox River Grove, and then I got the bill for the Uber, which was $132, and I'm like, "Nah, nah. I'm 53 years old. I can navigate the Chicago Transit Authority L train from Chicago O'Hare to Jefferson Park. I mean, it's only Jefferson Park. What the heck is Jefferson Park? That ain't nothing to worry about. I've been there. And then I can catch the Northwest line and I just take the train into Fox River Grove. And I'm like, this is going to be my new going in game plan because I'm not spending 132 bucks. I've got grandkids to spoil. I've got kids to spoil. I've got to see my sister, my sisters and my mother. I know I'm gonna blow through some cash. I don't need this extra $132 just setting it on fire. I'm gonna spend $2.50 ticket to get from O'Hare to Jefferson Park, and I'm gonna spend, the $6 train fare, and I'm like, "This is gonna be great. What could possibly go wrong?" Oh, my friends. The first news story of the day coming from Ground News. Abolish ICE among 6 winners of Chicago snowplow naming contest. I was no longer in Mississippi anymore, just like Dorothy was no longer in Kansas anymore, Toto. Oh, no. I was in a very different place, and it was almost like a spirit of anger fell over me almost immediately after I walked out of O'Hare International Airport as I was figuring out how to get to the CTA line. Uh, the spirit of anger and anxiety and fear, um, people were genuinely just ticked off everywhere you went. You looked like RBF on everybody. RBF on everybody. People were upset. They were, uh, really, almost looking like a bone to pick with everybody. And I'm sitting here thinking about my life choices at this moment in time. I'm like, now should I have spent the $132? And as I'm walking and I'm stepping through the Chicago Transit Authority turnstile, I'm sitting here and I'm assessing myself. Okay, I've got a small piece of pull luggage. I'm limping horribly. And by the way, I've got this bright yellow T-shirt and U.S. Air Force retired hat, or bright yellow, uh, tur- not turtleneck, but sweater, U.S. Navy sweater, retired Air Force hat on, And I'm sitting here going, I do believe I've just made myself look like a target. Now, I still had the opportunity to pull back the throttles and just do a U-turn and swallow my pride and go catch the $132 Uber. But did I do that? No. I decided, you know what? I'm 53 years old. I'm a retired military vet. I know what the heck I'm doing. I'm going to board this CTA Blue Line train like a boss, and I'm going to take it to Jefferson Park again. What's Jefferson Park? That's nothing, man. Man, that's nothing back in the day. And I'm gonna catch the Metro train, and by the way, I have no idea when the next Metro train is coming through Jefferson Park. I might be there for 5 minutes, I might be there for 55 minutes, but it's a public transit authority, it's a Metro. They've gotta have, like, a warming station, and it's cold as heck. I mean, I know it gets cold here and we complain about it, but the wind there just hits differently. It's a wet cold, where here in Mississippi, we might get a little bit of wind, but it's a drier air. And, oh my goodness, it was so cold getting on that train. So I get on at O'Hare, and there's no one in the car with me. I find it very odd because it's like O'Hare, and this is the terminus point for the CTA Blue Line train. And, so we start going around, and all of a sudden, people just start walking through the cars. And I get it, I got on at the very end, and they're just looking for more space. We don't wanna be crowded. And I start looking around, and I all of a sudden see the closed circuit TVs, and all I can think about is that poor girl in Charlotte who got knifed in the back, and I'm like, "Well, I'm glad I thought to put myself all the way in the back." My back I mean, another train might rear end me, and I'll die that way, but I'm not gonna get stabbed from behind. At least I know that. But, these 2 suspicious characters sit down. One's kinda close to me, definitely left enough space, but then the other one at the other end, and, immediately starts texting, and the next thing I know, there's 2 more dudes who are coming in, and now there's 5 of us in the last train car of the Blue Line train that's going to Jefferson Park. But what's Jefferson Park? Jefferson Park ain't got nothing on me. So I figure I'm gonna see if I'm really being scouted. My spidey sense is going off, I've got my bag, and I've got everything I need, and I'm literally sitting there thinking, "Okay, this is where I keep my concealed weapon." But I don't have that now, and I need it more in Chirac than I do going through the north side of Jackson. I'm just letting you know that right now. And I'm sitting here going, "You know what? I don't have a weapon." And I'm like, "I might be in trouble." So, the stop before Jefferson Park, I get up and I act like I'm gonna get off the train, and within 5 seconds, all 4 of those dudes get up and they get behind me. So I go and I sit back down. And they go and sit back down, and I'm like, "Okay, now I need to start making peace with myself." That $132 Uber was looking mighty fine right about now. I was seriously considering sitting myself on the steps for 3 minutes to reconsider my actions in my life, and it was just not looking good. So, it's like the longest ride between the stop before Jefferson Park and, Jefferson Park itself. It's like a 7-minute ride, and I'm just sitting there, and those guys now, they're looking me down, they're staring me down, and I know I'm in trouble, and, but, I'm getting off at Jefferson Park. I'm not gonna sit here and prolong it. I'm gonna get off because, in the off chance that something good happens here, I'm just gonna get off at Jefferson Park. So I get up and I limp, and remember it says, "The doors will open on the left side." And I step out of the left side of the at Jefferson Park, and I get about 4 steps, and there is this canine officer, and he just looks at me, and his eyes get about the size of saucers. I mean, I can see the whites of his eyes, and I'm just like, "Hey," I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking to myself, "Okay, this must be bad because I see this cop with his crazy eyes, and he goes, "Hey, my man, how's it going?" And he's sitting there talking to me like I'm his best friend. I'm like, "Hey, my brother, it's been a long time." And, we shake hands, bump fists, and he goes, "Where are you going?" I'm like, I'm heading to the metro station." He goes, "Yeah, yeah, you come follow me, you come follow me." And he's, like, looking behind really hurriedly, and a couple other cops kind of walk over, and the next thing I know, I am being shuffled through the bowels of the Chicago Transit Authority Jefferson Station, uh, m dungeon, if you will, going through, and I'm like, "Man, this is just going from bad to worse." At least I had sunlight up there, now I'm in, like, the catacombs. I'm going through tunnels and stuff, and, we get up there and he's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, I'm going to the metro station." You go, "You're outbound or inbound?" I'm like, "I'm going to Fox River Grove." He goes, "All right, you're outbound." So he brings me up and puts me in this elevator, and we go up to the top of this elevator, and I get out, and who's there? There's no police officers there. There's no passengers that I recognize there, but there are those 4 dudes just waiting for me. And the cop goes, "Let's just wait right here a minute." And so we wait for about 10 seconds. He goes, "All right, let's step out." And so we step out, and I can see, my peripheral vision that there's a couple other Chicago Transit Authority police officers kind of just walking through patrolling. And it was like God in divinity, because as soon as we get out and we start stepping, those guys start backing up, but then I can start hearing, "Pay attention," or whatever the Metra logo is there's a outbound train arriving, and, within 15 seconds, there was this beautiful brand new Chicago Metra, SD 70 Mac, which is a really nice locomotive, rebuilt, and it's pulling these trains, and it's like I didn't even have to wait for my train to get to Fox River Grove. And he just looks at me and he smiles. He goes, "You're one lucky guy." I'm like, "I am." I'm like, "It was great talking to you." It's like, "Great seeing you again, my friend." And like he's acting like he's my best buddy in the world. And I don't get this. So um, they helped me get on the train. It's a step up, let me tell you. Woo! I, I don't know how people do that every day anymore. I know how I used to do it, but I'm just like, so I step up onto the train. Conductor gets me seated and, end up paying the fare, which was great, and, that was my experience of almost getting mugged on the Chicago CTA because I wanted to save $132 on a Uber from Chicago to Fox River Grove. I was gonna be the main character of the story, which I kinda was. I let my pride get in front of my humbleness and figure, would have been easier on my legs, it would have been easier on my body, would have given peace of mind to the sweepie. The sweepies texted me during all this, like, "What's going on? What's going on? Where are you? You in the Uber yet?" And I'm like, "Nah, I'm alright." It was it was just incredible trip, but it was a memory that I'll always cherish, and I'll never forget that police officer treating me like, I was his best friend back from the barbecue. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Hey, I just appreciate everybody who's tuned into the stream. I hope you appreciated my trip to Chicago. We're going to get into some current events here in a little bit, but I really felt it was important to talk about the trip and how awesome it was. It was a lot of fun. And again, thank you to everybody who's listening. Love that. Love Cause and Effect. Great band, great band. If you know, you know. You know what? This is Andrew Gospel Show on 103.9 WYAB. We're moving and grooving. And before we really start hitting the news that needs to be talked about and discussed, um, I do know and understand that a lot of people hear that I'm not just the gloom and doom guy. I want to make sure that that is out there and is really prevalent. There were so many great stories that happened over the weekend. And one of them was the women's US hockey team and the men's US hockey team, and they both won gold, and remember, you don't win silver, you lose gold, and we won the gold medals at the Olympics. Now, I realize the Olympics are not what they used to be, especially after the Summer Olympics debacle of France, and we understand that, there's a lot of issues that are with the Olympic organization, the IOC, and, there it's just a dark, dark place right now. But it still doesn't mean that we can't pick out the rays of sunshine and the light and just enjoy the moment of the United States just whooping butt. And, I thought it was really good because there was this clip that's going around this morning from, I think it's Good Morning America. Um, Ellen Hughes, who actually won the gold medal for women back in 1990, I wanna say, and she has a son who's on the Olympic team, and can we just not enjoy the United States whooping butt like we always do? Because we are the best. If we decide we wanna win something, we will win it. It's just what we are. We've got 250 years experience on this, and we make some bad decisions, and we correct them. Then we have another long period of prosperity, and then we gotta go fight somebody else's war, and then we have another long period of prosperity, and then the woke mind virus and the globalists hit, and we're about to go through that situation, and it's just a shame to me that the mainstream media doesn't just allow the good to be. They have to sit there and they have to try to inject politics or wokeism or something into everything, and you just can't say, Darn it, the United States just won the men's Olympic gold medal." For all of us old and moldy fellas and sisters out there, to all you Zoomers out there, winning the gold medal in the 1980 Olympics, I can remember my grandfather and my grandmother, who were immigrants legally, crying over us defeating the Soviet Union. I can remember seeing the pictures from broadcast all around America of people crying, hugging, celebrating. We didn't care whether you were black or white or Latino or Hispanic or whatever the hell you want to identify yourself as. We didn't care. We were Americans, and those boys in Lake Placid did the business. It is so sad in society that we don't even know where the Olympics were being held this year. Many of us don't even know where it was being held this year when we won the gold medal again. But the hockey team, especially in the Winter Olympics, is always a little bit special for me personally, and I was really happy to see that. So, Good Morning America has Ellen Hughes on, and I'm just gonna let the clip play. It's a minute and 8 seconds, and then we'll have some commentary on it.
President of the United States, and he was inviting them to the State of the Union and all that. And then he said
Yeah, this is Trump and doing what all good presidents would do, whether you're Democrat or Republican. You go to the United States, or you come to the White House, you come to the State of Union, whatever it is you're getting invited to. You normally go to that, unless you're a liberal, woke-minded wimp who has to sit there and make their exploits a political point in protest. In which case, we don't want anything to do with you anyway. Go ahead, news anchor
comment that
babe.
gained attention. He said, "I must tell you, we're going to have to bring the women's team. You know that?" And the room kind of laughs. And he added, "I do believe I probably would be impeached." He was sort of joking through this. But you're cheering on both teams. How did that comment land for you?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's just about the country. And the moment that these players, both the men and women, can bring so much unity to a group and to a country, people that cheered on that don't watch hockey, people that have politics on one side or on the other side. And that's all both the men's team and the women's team care about. If you could see what we see from the inside and the men and women sharing, dorm rooms and halls and flex floors and the camaraderie and the synergy and the way the women cheered on the men and the way the men cheered on the women. Yeah. That's what it's all about. And the other things they cannot control. They care about humanity, they care about unity, and they care about the country.
Totally. I love.
And you hear the news anchor sitting there totally, agreeing with her, but shut up. You don't agree with that at all. You're there to try to make a political point for your political show on your political morning program, and you just had a hockey mom who just happens to be a gold medalist kick you between the legs and say, "Shut the heck up. Let's just enjoy the moment." And there was another moment with this, and I've gotta talk about it. And when this first got presented to me, I was like, "What the heck is going on here?" And that is our FBI director in the men's locker room drinking a I'm not gonna say it's a cold one, I don't think it was on ice, I think it was probably warm, was European beer, and sometimes European beers drink warm. But Cash throwing one down with the US hockey team, men's hockey team, after winning the gold, and at first I was really upset and angry. I was like, "What the hell is he doing over there at the Olympics? Why isn't he at UMMC investigating why the hospital can't operate?" I was supposed to go in this Friday to have something done at UMMC, and that's off the table now. It's already been, canceled to be determined at a later to be done at a later date. I'm grateful and thankful that it's outpatient. It's not that big of a deal, but I'm affected by that. But I'm like, "Why isn't Cash doing that? Why isn't he worried about the pedophiles?" And then I'm thinking, the FBI is bigger than just one guy. And when President Trump called Cash Patel to congratulate the hockey team, I'm like, I kind of get it. And Cash Patel is a guy like me. And then I put it on through my political slash retired politician lens. And I'm like, wouldn't we want our FBI director kind of overseeing what's happening at the Olympics? Wouldn't we want some type of presence there? Do we want to send the CIA? And I'm like, I didn't end up after working through it, the picture did exactly what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to rage bait everybody, and it did. It rage baited me, it rage baited the sweet bee. My kids were like, "Dad, what the heck is going on here?" And, I'm sitting there a little bit in shock going, "Why are we doing this?" But then I thought about me too. In the middle of a giant well, after a giant blizzard, and we got done doing that, I may or may not have had a cold one with some of my guys. Now, I didn't put it on social media, but that's what this generation does. They put it all on social media. They let it all hang out because it's not about the reality of the situation. It's about the clicks and the views and the followers. Am I mad at Cash Patel for drinking a cold one with the US Olympic gold medalist hockey team? Nope. I'm glad he was able to blow off a little steam. Now get your butt back to the United States of America. Let's start locking up these pedophiles. Let's figure out why UMMC can't open up its computers, why patients are being turned away. And let's start doing that business too. You've got a deputy director. You've got other people out there. This Cash is the face, but there's a lot more than just him. And him celebrating our Olympic with our Olympians. I'm just not having it. I'm just not having it. We're gonna take a little bit of an early break because I do wanna talk more about UMMC when we get back on the other side. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Yeah, we're back on 1039 WYB.com. Andrew Gosser Show, moving and grooving. Look, one thing too, and this is coming from Vince Langman via Chris Hinkle, talking about Cash Patel over at the Olympics. No one was upset when Ketanji Brown Jackson was celebrating the American hating Hollywood celebrities bashing ICE at the Grammys the other day. There's all sorts of cases that are needing to be ruled on. There's all sorts of stuff that's going on. She took time off. That's our associate Supreme Court justice who doesn't know the difference between what a man and a woman is. She can't give you a definition because she doesn't know. And, I wanted to try to keep the first hour as bright and as light as possible, talking about my trip, all the silliness that happened with it, the jokes, the laughs. But I'm telling you what's going on in this world now, between the gaslighting of the media, how everything is just there's just so many big stories that would be like stories of the year or even stories of the decades back in the 90s or early 2000s. Now, like, that's the story of the day. You got space aliens, you've got war, you've got Mexico about to light up, and we're gonna talk about that. And we've got this little old story here in Mississippi. Let me get this right. This is coming from Jackson Jambalaya, my man Kingfish. I'll always go to the smaller local guys before I go to the big mainstream media because I just like them better. UMC closes clinics Wednesday, activates triage line. If you need to get into the triage line at UMMC, the number is 601-815-0000. But this is what's going on. We deeply regret the inconvenience caused by the attack on our system. We are doing all that we can to bring the situation to a safe resolution. In the meantime, we are opening this triage phone line for those in most need of immediate assistance, said Dr. Lou Ann Woodward, Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs. And it's, I'm telling you what, everybody in America should be looking at what's happening to UMMC and thinking about their life decisions, thinking about their own health care, thinking about how would they get their medicines if there was some type of cyber attack or an EMP attack? "Oh, Andy, you're just going to a dark place." No, the military gave me a lot of leeway to try to figure out how to get the good guy. Much like this the last one of the last stories I talked about last week was the war game where the red forces just whooped up on the blue forces, and they're like, "Nope, nope, this didn't happen. We're gonna hit a exercise pause. We're gonna reset the board. Red Air, you don't get to act like Red Air anymore. You have to put the cuffs on. You're gonna die like good little Red Air." UMMC still doesn't have their computers back as far as I can tell from the mainstream reporting that I'm aware of. Doctor's appointments, I mean, there's a lot of really important doctor's visits that are not happening right now in the greater Jackson area. It's brutal, and I just want you to it is a TTP Tuesday, although I don't really have any TTPs ready to go. Got in a little bit late last night. But one of the techniques, tactics, and procedures you could is plug in the UMMC cyber ransom attack, and it is ransomware from what I understand. They want a sum of money to give back all of the data that is theirs and to begin with. But what is AI gonna do once it figures this out? Once it becomes conscious and it decides that, "Hey, you know what? Humans are cray cray. Humans are nuts. We're just gonna deny it all." Whoop, and with a click of a button, the internet goes down, the cell phone goes down, medical records go down. We had a little incident of that the other day when YouTube went down. I was talking to my nephew about it, and he was like, "Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I went to my YouTube account and I couldn't get anything." Like, "Were you all right?" He was like, "Yeah, I read a book." Good for him. But there were a lot of kids out there, a lot of adults out there who a lot of kids who think they're adults out there who went into full meltdown mode when just YouTube went down. You still had Rumble, you still had Kick, you still had Google, you still had all X. You had all the options available. You had all the options available, and you still flipped out. Ladies and gentlemen, we are entering into very, very tumultuous, turbulent, and dare I say, crazy times. And we're going to talk about Mexico in the next hour, and how that's going to affect every single person in Mississippi. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. And you're also listening to me on the Rumble, on the X, on the YouTube. We will be right back. Fire them up. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYAB. We are streaming on Rumble. We are streaming on X. We are streaming on YouTube. And we are streaming at WYAB.com, the mothership. So if you can't pick up our 50,000 watt blowtorch of a signal, hit us up there. Look, if you want to be part of the program today, the number is 601 879 0002. Text line is open 601 879 5060. And look, I continue to be positive and say we have a mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show, and it is standard. We are here to equip the saints, and we're going to continue to do that because who are the saints? You are the saints. When a wise person has a controversy with a foolish person, the foolish person either rages or laughs. There is no rest. And that's what happens when you try to talk sense into a liberal. They're just going to rage. They can't handle it. They just blow up. And I watched it happen in Illinois, and I don't want it to happen here in Mississippi. And it just reminds me, which is what I titled the show today, it just reminds me so much uh, of of what happened in Illinois in 1992, what's happening in Mississippi today. And I've got an example of this. Classroom cell phone ban and other Mississippi Senate election reform bills appear dead in the House. And this is coming from who? Mississippi Free Press. And I know that they're left leaning, but it kind of illustrates my point perfectly. And it's got another tie-in at the bottom, which I'll get to. But we had this great, big, beautiful education bill in Mississippi, HB2. I know a lot of Republicans who were for it. I know a lot of Republicans who were against it, and I'm friends with both of them, and I'm not calling either one of them an idiot or otherwise maligning them because they don't agree with me. Guess what? There were a lot of Democrats who wanted that bill, and there were a few Democrats who didn't. And it barely squeaked out of the House, and it rolled into the Senate where it promptly died. Now, the Senate's got a bunch of smaller bills to tackle the education issue, but apparently the Education Committee in the House, which is chaired by a Republican, is only gonna meet one time. One time. One time. They're only gonna meet one time to consider bills. Think about that. This is how the sausage is made, ladies and gentlemen. This is how it's done. I'm just being 100 with you. You know, the cell phone ban that everybody agreed was a was a good idea to ban cell phones? They're doing it all across the country and having amazing results. We've talked about it on this program where there are studies out there that show that kids who read books ha brains are more functioning than kids who just read tablets and cell phones. It's a great idea to shut off those cell phones. We'll become more social creatures again. We won't be online and addicted to phones. Well, the Republicans in the Mississippi State House killed that bill because guess what? They didn't pass HB2. They also killed the bill that increased funding for gifted students. And I'm not again, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't wanna signal out and just say, "You're gifted, so you get more money." What about the kids who have autism? Do they get more money? What about the student athletes? Do they get more money? What are we actually trying to teach in our schools? What are we actually trying to get done in our schools? You know, you can go look at what they did in Oregon. I gotta make sure I have this pulled up correctly. I gotta make sure what they did in Oregon, where they just reduced the standards for math, science, and writing, and there's a really spicy headline there, but and I'll get to that. I'll pull it up during the break. But, you know, we're sitting here saying, "Oh, the Mississippi Miracle, look at all the great stuff we're doing," and we're letting a bunch of really good education bills die that are already through the Senate that could come to the House, get voted on, could get signed by Governor Reeves. Is he getting 100% of his solution? No. Is Delbert pulling a number on us? Yeah. But hey, we elected that. This is what we voted for, ladies and gentlemen. But there was another bill that died too. And this is where I say Mississippi is becoming just like Illinois. Give it 30, 40, 50 years. A bill providing healthcare insurance for school board members. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. SB 2071. Remember that app tracker that I had you all download? The ECM legislative agenda app? Well, if you type in Senate Bill 2071, you would get this one. It's a description. Authorizes school boards authorizes vote to providing members of their dependents with health insurance paid for by local funds. I thought that when you were on a school board, you were there to serve the children and the families and increase education, but it's not. You get on a board and you get the health care. And I remember people telling me I was nuts. I made it a point. I'm not taking the dang health care. I rejected it. Let me tell you, those healthcare plans that the politicians get, they're not gold plated. They are platinum plated, diamond infused, emeralds, all the things, rubies. That bill died, which is good, but it just goes to show you, and I will continue to say this till I can no longer say it, is that if you can't get good people on your school board, well, you ain't going to get good people anywhere. And what is churning through the Mississippi House and Senate right now are the same types of bills that were churning through Illinois back in the early 1990s, but under the Democrat control. Mike Madigan, who had been Illinois Speaker for more years than I was alive, he was the Speaker of the Illinois House, and he just pulled the strings. It was breathtaking to watch. Actually, as a young kid, I thought he was a great dude, and then as I learned and grew older, I'm like, "Man." And what are we doing about it? We're being sidetracked with all sorts of stories. We've got this man, I don't even know her name. I've got to write it down. Hold on a minute here. Guthrie missing, that lady from Arizona. I still don't understand what I mean, it's horrible. Never want anybody elderly missing, going missing, but we've got other things kicking off. We've got billion I'm gonna just say it. By the time we add up all the fraud from this daycare and craziness that the liberal Democrats put through with the help of some Republicans in the US Congress and Senate, you're gonna be talking trillions of dollars of fraud, trillions. I'm just saying that that's a little bit more important. You know, I we talked about how Mexico is starting to descend into chaos, and I don't wanna play the audio from the video this segment, I'm gonna save it for the next segment, but when you see what's getting ready to kick off in Mexico, because everybody thinks it's bad right now, that's it, like, dialed up to 1%. This isn't even a taster or a sweetener. This is like when you're getting ready to start your lawnmower and you gotta prime the pump, you gotta push the gas button 3 times. This is like pushing the gas button 1 time before we even get ready to pull the handle to start the lawnmower so we can go cut the grass. Absolutely scary stuff going on in Mexico. You've got the stuff happening in Iran, and you've got China and Russia starting to amp up their presence there. Everybody talks about it. It's absolutely and I can say this, when I have all my military buddies and I talking about the ability for the mainstream media and people on the internets to track military movements. You know, the loose lip sink ships acronym, mantra, whatever you wanna call it, is still valid whether or not you can stream movements on X or not. And we are just in a really, really bad place, not just for the country, but for humanity. I saw some stuff in Illinois, and I'm not even gonna say it on the radio, but what I was just sad that I saw it. You know, there was a little bit of it in Rankin County with the furries in the classrooms and all that. Take that to the X level in public, and that is actually happening in Illinois. They're out there, people, and it is considered mainstream. It's not a big deal anymore to have young teenagers to kids in their 20s and even 30s dressing up like cats and pretending to do cat things in public, in front of kids. We're breaking society, whether it be the new court ruling or the new governor mandate in Oregon, or whether it be denying passage of good legislation here in Mississippi. And we're also distracted with the space aliens. We're all distracted with the Olympics. What are we gonna be distracted with next? We're distracted with UMMC. I'm distracted with the gate at my farm that blew down. Gotta get that fixed. That's gonna be a chore and a half. But what are you distracted with? I'm curious to know. When we get back, we're gonna talk about how how the human mind is being changed by the mainstream media and just a couple of the latest examples. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYAB. Moving and grooving here on a Tuesday. Anybody got a problem with Tuesday? Like people growing about Monday, people growing about Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Everybody's happy on Sunday. But who got anything against Tuesday? It's Taco Tuesday. Might have to take me up on some of that. Look, we are being influenced by out of state actors, and people don't want to hear about it. And I hear about this especially from people who have lived in Mississippi their entire life, and they're just like, Andrew, you don't understand how Mississippi works. We just do things a little bit slower. And I'm like, I appreciate that, and that's why I moved here. But just because you're doing it a little bit slower doesn't mean that it's not going to get here. Coming from the New York Times, pedophilia, a disorder, not a crime, by Marge Kaplan. And here you've got this weird abstract art. Again, just mental illness slash demons being perpetrated upon the community by the New York Times. And this is predominantly in the left. I think this is what the subtle messaging that's going up. Why are we getting distracted? Why? Because of Epstein files. There, I said it. 2 hours or 1 hour and 25 minutes into the program, finally said Epstein. If we can't protect the kids, who can you protect? No, it is not all right for a grown man or a grown woman to have any type of attraction other than parental or grandparental or brother or sister type of love. There's no, it's just disgusting. It's sickening, and it's not congruent. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I know that it does, but it doesn't make it right. And the hammer needs to drop. And, and I know that we have a State of the Union address tonight, and I doubt that the Epstein files will even be brought up, or if they are, it'll be brought up in tacit moments. Do you remember when everybody would used to say, if they ever touched my kid, that'd be the end of them? And it's not like that anymore. We're not like that anymore. We don't protect our kids from sexual predators. We don't protect the unborn, even though Puerto Rico, home of Bad Rabbit, has a bill in place that protects the baby from conception till the life from conception till natural death. Good old, you haven't heard too much about Bad Rabbit or the FCC. Again, that was just a distraction. It's like they're just, I just feel so, you focus in on something and it's like, yep, it's bad. Move on to the next thing. I've got my job I've got to get ready for. This is coming across, and we just talked about this last week, how New York became another state to go ahead and do the assisted suicide stuff. This is coming from Life News. Canada is killing people in assisted suicide on the same day they request it. Remember how they said there's a cool down period? You got to have video. You got to have a clinical physician. You got to go through all this stuff. They're just killing people off. Now, I'm not saying they're all conservative. I'm not saying they're all liberal, but what I am saying is they're all human. And we've gotten to the point to where humanity in the 90s and 2000s, we were doing so good, we didn't have to worry about struggle. We didn't have to worry about trying to make decisions to get through hard times. Society in general just didn't have to do it. And I know many of you are like, Andy, that's not me. I realize it's not you, but it is society. It is society. And we're going to have more bills like this. People in Canada are having their lives ended by assisted suicide, dying on the same day that the requests are made. An official report by the chief coroner of Ontario's medical assistants in dying Death Review Committee highlighted that. In 23, 65 people in Ontario, and this is just coming out now. If we had 65 people in 2023, how many Canadians bought the farm this year alone? Hmm? Again, we're distracted. I don't and I can say here with some confidence, well, a lot of confidence, I don't think we would have that necessarily here in Mississippi, but we would have it. But speaking of my friends in Canada, and I know I'm hitting a lot of different issues, but it all ties together, and these are things that are happening. How many of us know somebody in Mississippi who says, "Oh, I wanna move to Canada, United States sucks," or they won't cheer for the hockey team because the United States sucks? By the way, I cheered for the women and the men. I truly don't care about that, I just care about America. Well, here's this woman from the left wing supremacy who a liberal white woman who fled America to Canada because America was so bad. And I hope everybody is sitting here listening takes a good listen to this lady.
I'm a scholar of the far right who has fled the United States to Canada, and I need help. The situation in Canada is absolutely dire. For Americans who don't know, the housing crisis here is worse than in the United States.
Did you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? The housing crisis is worse in Canada than in the United States. We have whole states inside Canada who wanna gain their own independence and leave Canada because the leftist government there sucks so bad. And here we go. Let's just get it going.
I lived in LA for 6 years, and I have not faced rent as bad as here. When my partner, our cat, and our dog
My partner, cat, and dog. What makes a young woman like this think that the United States is so bad? That her own existence, and granted, she was in LA, so it was pretty bad. She had to deal with the riots and Black Lives Matters and, the Mexican gangs and all that kind of craziness over the past year, the Palisade fight. Maybe she got burned out of her house in the Palisade fires. I mean, I'm trying to find a out for this lady. I'm having a hard time doing it, but what makes a person think that their home is so rotten and terrible that they have to flee? It's almost like we're in a simulation. It's almost like we're in a simulation.
fled the United States, we headed north with the goal of being close to where our families are located, which is on the West Coast. So we are now in British Columbia.
Has there been any persecution, of these people on the West Coast? I mean, she's already in the heart of leftism in America, in California. I mean, it doesn't get much more left than California, maybe New York, maybe Illinois, but, I mean, she's in a safe space for liberals in California, and yet her Trump derangement syndrome is so bad, it sent her and her partner and her cat and dog off to Canada.
More specifically, we are in the Sea to Sky Highway in the Greater Vancouver area. We are attempting to find housing.
When we went TAD to Whidbey Island, we all went up for a night trip to the Vancouver. We called it the Vancouver Maneuver. Good times in Vancouver. Great place, great food, great club. This was the '90s, though. Might be a little different now.
In this, the western side of this region. My partner and I are here.
Don't you have a husband? Is it a wife? Why can't we just go back to traditional marriage? It just seemed that people were happier then. We gave away all this we got broke away from all these traditional values, and now everybody's just angry. Not just in California, not just in Illinois or New York, but in other places too. Because half of us are saying, "You're plumb crazy," and the other half is saying, "Let me do what I wanna do. It's my body, it's my choice, but yeah, I'm having to pay for it."
on a visitor visa, which is a 6 months possible stay for Americans. But while you're here on a visitor visa, you can't work. So we are currently surviving off of what savings we could.
Wait a minute, you're meaning Canada is enforcing its immigration laws? You can't work in a state that you don't have a legal working visa? What about the United States of America, darn it? Oh, what about America and our borders and our immigration law? Why don't you just file for asylum over there? You know what? You get your butt shot down so quick for trying to claim political asylum in Canada from United States of America. Hell, Canada doesn't even have a real Air Force outside of JTF2. You guys depend on us for so much, and yet you can't take this lesbian woman and her partner and her cat and her dog and give her a working visa in Vancouver. Canada, what the heck's wrong with you? My goodness gracious.
Get together before we fled the United States, and that's not.
You fled the United States. Now, did you have people chasing you with guns? Did you have Bo and Luke Duke and the General Lee chasing you down? Shooting guns? Do you have some Tea Party extremists? Grandma in her wheelchair and walker with their flags taped to her hat chasing you down as you were fleeing the United States of America? The hypocrisy, the double standard, the duality of this all is just un unbelievable. And this girl is serious as a heart attack, yo. She is serious as a heart attack.
Not terribly much. And in Canada, I think it's actually the cost of living crisis is worse here, especially when you are shut out.
No, don't give me the tears. Don't give me the cracking voice. I don't want to hear that Canada actually sucks more than the United States because we know it sucks more than the United States, unless our mainstream media, who programs us to say that it doesn't suck more than the United States when it actually does. That giant sucking sound you hear, that's Canada. It's worse there. It's 1,000 times worse there. I love Canada. I love the people of Canada. I love some of the beers that come out of Canada. But if you're telling me what is a better country, Canada or United States, and it just doesn't include hockey, it's the United States every day of the week and 3 times on Sunday, but you can't do that in Canada anyway.
Out of the healthcare system, when you can't access any of the resources that Canadians have access to, and that's understandable, I'm not a.
Oh, so now she's admitting that it's understandable that people who are in Canada, on tourist visas and everything like that, if they don't follow their immigration laws, it's understandable that they don't get all the goodies. But if you come to the United States and you just claim that you're oppressed, now you get all the United States goodies. Make that make sense. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Oh, yeah, welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We are moving and grooving, rocking and rolling. Look, I don't wanna not let this lady finish. I think she's got, like, another 10 seconds. I wanna let her have her full clip and moment in the sun.
I'm a scholar of the far right who has fled the United States to Canada.
Oh, she said that part. Let me get back right to the right spot here. Zoop. She says she's a scholar of the far right. I wanna understand, where she got her scholarship from, where she graduated from. That'd be really cool. We'll see if the X wants to actually catch up to where we're at here. If not, we can move on. So, with saying that, uh, let me click that off. Mexico. Everybody sees what's happening in Mexico with the order for Americans to shelter in place, with the cars that are burning, and you know, w the whether it was the Mexican government, whether it was the Mexican government with US intel support, we got a bad dude. And there was a telephone call that was released between this bad dude and the operator, and I thought about playing it, but then I realized if I would have played it, I would have been just as bad as Bad Rabbit in the NFL and NBC, and I didn't wanna do that. But what this shows is that that bad dude who was the top of one of the cartels there, I don't know which one, he had a direct line to the police. He had a direct line to these politicians on the high end saying, "What the heck are you doing? Why are you attacking me?" It shows that this is all connected. That if you try to drain the swamp in one place, does it mean you have to drain the swamp all around the world, or can you drain one swamp at a time? Swamp monsters wanna know. Swamp is a place with a lot of scary stuff in it, not just the monsters, but all the stuff that's been dumped in there and rotting and festering and decaying and molding over years. You start digging that stuff up, I'm here to tell you, I had a little swamp. I thought I was just gonna be able to drop in a couple culverts and just drain it that way. Oh, no, 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 not that easy. That swamp water's gotta go somewhere. No offense to my people in Louisiana and Southern Mississippi who are in the swamp. We love the swamp, but we're using it as a political metaphor. Don't want that to be misconstrued here. There was another video that I saw coming out of Mexico from the Mexican cartels, and that was the one that really popped my eyes, and I'm so glad that we didn't go to Mexico this year. We're thinking about maybe doing a cruise or something like that. We had close friends of the family who just went to Puerto Vallarta. I hope I said that right. But these guys were in full urban assault camo with weapons, goggles, face masks. I mean, they looked like a 2026 Earthling storm ship trooper. And I was like, "Oh, that's gotta be the Mexican army." That no, that's not even the Mexican army, that's gotta be their special forces. It was the cartels. And as soon as these cartels get this all figured out, I think it's gonna come here. They're gonna want their money. The supply will not stop, the demand will not stop, and right now, the Americans are in a shelter in place. Some people say that there's hostages. I haven't been able to independently prove that, so that's why I said they said that there was allegedly hostages or there were supposedly hostages. But this is why we fought the global war on terror overseas is so that this stuff wouldn't happen here, but it's here now. You don't like the Mexican cartels? How about the invasion of the illegal immigrants from Somalia and other Muslim countries? Could they not do the same thing? If you listen to the Sean Ryan show and Sarah Adams, AKA Superbad, there's as many as 18,000 known terrorist trainees sitting right here in the United States. 18,000. What are we being distracted on again? State of the Union address? Democrats not planning to attending to attend a different State of the Union, drain the swamp, state of the swamp at the National Press Club of all places. At the National Press Club. And I know I get mocked and ridiculed in talking about Operation Mockingbird, but our mainstream media is a direct accomplice to everything that's happening. But we are too distracted. We're not paying attention. Well, what's that? Armed man attacks Mar-a-Lago and gets shot and killed. Turns out to be somebody who might be a nice guy. Something else that if you just read the headline, you would take this the wrong way. It says charges dropped against 6 congressmen who said to stand up to unlawful orders. Well, they tried to prosecute them, and the grand jury failed to indict. So don't say that the administration failed to do that. The military still has jurisdiction over uh, Colonel Captain Mark Kelly. But those other ones, just like we said on the Andrew Gosser show, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just letting you know I understand this intimately. You know, if you don't have that monthly paycheck coming in as a honorably retired U.S. military veteran, you can go say silly stuff like that. All the veterans will be sitting there mocking you, saying, "What the heck are you doing?" But you can go do that. Remember, the First Amendment gives you a right to say what you want to say, but you still have to hold the consequences for it. Different people have different consequences. It's downright foolish to me to ever try to bring up any type of RICO charges, racketeering charges, any law-abiding charges against anything that even is remotely close to the left in DC because it's gonna lose. They're just gonna auto fail it. But if you're on the right and you get charged in DC, like a J6er, you better look out. You better stand by because they're gonna get you. You know, we're still looking for election judges for the March 10th primary in Hinds County, and this story is coming from WLBT. In-person absentee voting process could change in Mississippi. Now they're trying to say when you vote in person, you're going to have to stick in your ID card with your ballot, and instead of putting it in an envelope, it's going to count it right there. How do you feel about in-person absentee balloting? I'm personally, you know, if you're military overseas, you appreciate that. And I would like to see us get back to the point to where we can have an election day, just like the Constitution says, not an election season. According to this, faster vote counting on election night. Representative Noah Sanford, House Appropriations, I'm just going to call it that, and elections chairman said the change would also speed up the vote counting process. It would also allow for those absentee ballots to be counted much, I'm not exaggerating, much faster on election night. So no longer do we have people counting votes into the late night or even waiting till the next day to find out who won. They would be counted first on election night. I think that's awesome. Count the absentee ballots first, get them done. I miss election nights back in the 90s and early 2000s. Whether it was a presidential season or not, it was fun to watch. Now it's just like, "Oh, I voted. Well, we'll wait till tomorrow morning to see if the computer and the AI stole the election or not." You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Oh, yeah, it is the Andrew Gosser Show. Tonight is the State of the Union. Should be interesting. Do you plan to watch it? I do. I'll watch it online, though. I won't click into any of the traditional news sources. People have been texting me, asking me, why are we getting involved in Mexico's business? We just need to be focused with our business. This is coming from Ground News. Perfect example. California Highway Patrol officer who died in on-duty crash had fentanyl in his system, medical examiner says. Fentanyl crisis is real. The drug crisis is real. It's not just a certain community. It's just not something that's sung about in music videos. Many of us know someone who has passed away from fentanyl overdose. I have 2 friends. One is a vet who lost kids to fentanyl. It's an evil, evil drug, and these drug cartels are making money off of it. What happened to America and what happened to our society where we can't even say drugs are bad anymore? You can't even say that a traditional marriage is good anymore. You get looked at funny. One of the biggest things that I saw in Illinois was the explosion of Buddhism and the explosion of Islam. Mosques everywhere. It's breathtaking to watch. And you can all sit there and say, "Oh, Andy, you don't understand. We're in Mississippi." Well, I see Arabic around here. We are giving up our culture for a different culture, and then we're getting mad about it that our culture is not winning the fight anymore. And, that's one of the things that I truly struggle with. How hard do you go against something uh, to try to get people involved and motivated to do stuff? We're looking for election judges in Hinds County. If you want to help out with that, that'd be awesome. We can get you hooked up with Brother Spencer Ritchie, and we can get you trained up before the election. Definitely want to do that. 601-879-5060. As we head on out, I just want to say thank you to all of you who were texting me while I was on vacation, wishing me a good vacation, hoping I'd enjoy times with my kids. You saw everybody who was watching the webcam saw I got a new hat. Didn't even talk about the Chicago and Northwestern, but it was really great to go see that, spend time with my kids, see my mom, have a couple good family meals, some good Nana cooking. She got out and dusted off some of the stuff. It was so good, ladies and gentlemen. It's always great to go visit mom, go visit dad, go visit kids. You should take advantage of those situations. You never know when you might not be able to. Never know when you might not be able to. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Andrew Gosser Show. Lindsey Beckham is next here on 103.9 WYAB.